10:30. Yeah. So as long as I have enough time to get to both, like, so. I don't want to be like, hey, like this one ends at 10, the next one's at 10:30. Like, there's no way I'm going to. The first instruction I can probably was like 10:30. And then the next one, it's an hour drive to the next one. That's more like a awesome. Yeah, we're trying to book flights at least as close possible to Cuba.
That's fine.
Yeah. So let's say we don't worry that we book fares. We have to book fares and fully refund.
Okay.
So don't ever like, oh my god, like, no, we have to book fares that we can get fully refunded.
Okay.
We had that actually.
Yeah.
We had to amend in the period and something happened really like on the phone.
Can we get a list of the actual like charges?
Like,
Yes.
So it's like destruction of air, it's like 4 counts of murders in Puerto Rico, like it's also destruction of aircraft.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
No, that's what they make.
Conspiracy to kill you. Okay. So count. All right. So 4 murder, conspiracy, destruction of aircraft.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's good.
Well, you can just tag conspiracy on basically anything. If I talk to somebody else about it.
Do you think everyone's going to start on time? Or?
No.
No.
Do you know where you work?
I know. Okay. Because we're just. How big was it?
It's on the DOJ's press release has the full PDF of the indictment. So Emily, I can get those as soon as I finish responding to this too. But Emily Covington sent me that. You're about a 90-degree turn. Yeah. sir.
Goodbye, Mr. Secretary.
Bye, yeah.
How do you do?
How are y'all? So good. Yeah. This is awful. I knew they were gonna happen, just not all like in the same like 48 hours. Good. Terrible. Not fun.
Anything else since then? Come out of the book.
Just one so far.
This one. No. Did you use it all?
You know, we need 8 out of 9 results get us, just keep us up, and I am so terrified that we're gonna lose at home.
Do you know how bad hospital plans are being? You know what I'm talking about?
The 3P, real 3P. You need that from residents.
That is better than the state. You're not really want to check.
Not unless somehow keeping them around. It's I mean, like Spurs, I'm not gonna lie.
The opposite.
And it's like you can't escape the contribution.
You know how
Because of some kind of real floor.
this belong to anybody here?
Metal detector and stuff.
Big one.
It's been there since this morning.
Did you hear
So
that?
let's
They'll
do
use
it.
that as
It's so with her.
a whole long time. Another school is for
Yeah. No problem. They're just
older.
I'm young. Because I'm something.
That could happen. So who's your person?
My man is 45 years old.
45 years old.
45.
No, is he right? He's seen it for a while. He's always up to his own movie.
Is it California? Oh man.
Sometimes I play to go massage it.
Hey, Tom. Tom. Is this on the schedule for today? Stars here.
Okay. I think today's a day that a lot of us that have been involved in trying to make the right thing happen in Cuba are happy about. So May 20th, Cuba's Independence Day, finally. Finally, after a lot of us been calling for this, Raul Castro has been indicted. And that is a good day for America, and it's a good day for Cuba. Every one of us up here have been fighting for independence and freedom and opportunity for all the people in Cuba for a long time. First off, let's really acknowledge this. Raul Castro, Miguel Diaz-Canel, they're not legitimate leaders. No different than Delcy Rodriguez is not a legitimate leader. Right? They didn't have an election where everybody had the opportunity to vote. No, they took these jobs. Right? And what they've done is despicable. So Raul Castro finally got indicted for something he did 30 years ago. 3 Americans and 1 resident were murdered. Raul Castro made the decision. Conspiracy to kill Americans. Destruction of aircraft. So, and if you just look at the history of the Cuban regime, on top of being despicable to the people of Cuba, right? They've harbored terrorists. They've been the leader of instability in Latin America. So everything that all the problems we have in Latin America start with the Cuba regime. So I want to thank the president. I want to thank Secretary Rubio for doing this. I want to thank them for the sanctions they put on. I want to thank them for what they started, which is still work to do in Venezuela, and now what they're doing here to make sure we starve the regime of resources. We sanction them for the despicable acts they take. Now we have a picture. Let's see, where do we have it over here? This is not a Holocaust survivor, right? This is not somebody from World War II. This is somebody that in this year, okay, this is a picture from this year in Cuba. So when Democrats go down there and campaign for the regime, they're campaigning to do this to a human being. Alexander Diaz-Rodriguez is, I think, 45 years old. Look how old he looks in this. You know why? He was starved. He was tortured. He has cancer. They didn't give him treatment. That's the face of the Cuban regime. So, again, what the path we're going down has the opportunity for success, the opportunity for the people of Cuba finally, after decades, to pick their own future. On top of that, another thing they do, they traffic doctors. They send doctors to another country, give the doctors a pittance, and they take the same thing for the regime. Sanctioned by the Pan American Health Organization, a sister organization of the WHO. So sanctioned by an international organization that we're a member of. So look, the Cubans have been an unbelievable part of our state. If you look at, every time I go to Miami, if you look around Miami and you look at the success, how vibrant it is, all these things, the reason is that because we have been the beacon of hope for Latin America. We get the smartest, the most hardworking, the people that want to go get out of hellholes they get to Miami and have been part of building not just Miami but our state. And so I'm very proud of them. But this is a good day. This is a big opportunity to go forward, and I want to thank the Trump administration for doing it. So let me turn it over to the next governor of Florida, Byron Donalds.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Senator Scott, thank you so much for hosting us over here. To my colleagues in the House, also from Florida and Miami, Representative Salazar, Representative Jimenez. This is a day of justice for the Cuban people. It's a day of justice for Cuban Americans in Florida and all across the United States of America. For more than 60 years, we have witnessed, very close to our shores, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, we have witnessed a communist dictatorship led by the Castros. And finally today, thank you to President Trump and to the acting Attorney General, Mr. Todd Blanche, for the swift decision to indict Raul Castro for his crimes against America, against 3 Americans in particular. In 1996, the Brothers to the Rescue were flying in international waters for people who were fleeing the Cuban regime, trying to swim across the strait to Florida. They would go and they would fly and pick people up to get them the aid that they needed, because the Castros have been so disgusting and have been so tyrannical that the Cuban people have been starving. They have no liberty. They have no rights. They have no freedom. And people were swimming across the Florida Strait, and the Brothers to the Rescue were going out on their own to help people get to our shores, to escape tyranny. And they gave the order, Raul Castro, to shoot them down, to shoot them out of the sky. Well, today there will be justice done here in America. And my hope is this trial is in Florida so that Mr. Castro faces a jury of his peers in the nation that stands for freedom and liberty and opportunity, not dictatorship, not despotism, and not communism. So this is a great day for the Cuban people, a great day for the people of Florida, a great day for the people of our country. We want to see justice done, and justice will be done. And if they don't believe us, go ask the former head of Venezuela. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Jimenez of Miami.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to our great senator and the future governor for having us here. I want to say that Mario Diaz-Balart wanted to be here, but he is in appropriations right now, and he's a chair of one of the subcommittees, so he couldn't be here. But certainly, speaking for him, he feels obviously it's a great day. Myself, Maria Salazar, Mario, and Nicole Malitakis signed a letter back in February 13th of this year asking for this to happen. And we're very, very happy that it did happen. And I got to say, Senator, Governor, I admire you very much because you're just plain spoken. You tell it just like how it is. There's no sugarcoating to it. This murderous regime, Raul Castro, murdered in cold blood 3 American citizens and 1 American resident who were on Cessna private planes flying over the Straits of Florida, trying to rescue Cubans that were trying to make it across the Straits of Florida in anything that would float, a tire tube, a makeshift life raft. Some even created boats out of pickup trucks to try to escape that hellhole which is Cuba, created by the Castro regime. And Raul Castro actually boasted that he was the one that gave the order to shoot down these planes that were on a humanitarian mission over international waters, to shoot them down. Why? Probably because they were causing him embarrassment. This was being shown around the world how thousands of Cubans were putting their life at risk to try to get to freedom. And we don't know how many hundreds or thousands actually perished in the Strait of Florida trying to make it to freedom. And so today is a great day. It's a message, a clear message from this administration, the Trump administration, that we are laser focused. They are laser focused on the Western Hemisphere. They will not tolerate, we will not tolerate dictatorships in our hemisphere, that we will be fighting for the people. And Senator, you're absolutely right. These are not legitimate government people. Nobody elected these people to their positions, just like Delcy Rodriguez. She was not elected to the position, so I call her the interim dictator. and that we need to take additional steps in Venezuela also to bring about freedom and democracy to the people of Venezuela and turn Venezuela from an enemy to a friend of the United States, just like we have to do in Cuba. Because Cuba is not only denying freedom and democracy to its people, it's also a national security threat to the United States. They're 90 miles from our shores. We just learned recently that they have at least 300 drones in their possession that actually puts, excuse me, the entire southeast of the United States at risk, because these drones have ranges up to 600 miles. And so anybody who thinks that Cuba is not a threat, they have been always a threat, they are today, and they will be a threat if they continue to exist in the future. They harbor all of our major enemies around the world. They're an ally to China, to Russia, Hezbollah, all kinds of terrorist organizations. They are state-sponsored of terrorism. And so today's action is a clear signal from the Trump administration, and thank you, President Trump, for the action that you're taking today. The South Florida community thanks you very much. We've been waiting for this day for over 30 years. And yes, it is justice delayed, but it is justice. And it's also a clear signal, not only to the regime that their days are numbered, but also to the Cuban people that your days of suffering are also numbered. And that one day soon, and today is very symbolic because today is Cuban Independence Day. In 1902, Cuba became an independent nation. They had just fought a war against the Spanish. And that today is the beginning of the next phase of Cuban independence. Independence from a tyrannical, dictatorial regime, which is known as the Castro regime. And so, very happy for today. I was born in Cuba, returned to Guantanamo about a year ago, and I made a promise that I would never return to Cuba again unless it was free. I believe I'm going to be able to keep that promise, and I'm going to see a free Cuba in the not-too-distant future. And so, with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, also from South Florida, who represents big parts of Miami, Maria Salazar.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to, that's a difficult act to follow. Delighted to be here next to our great senator and the next governor of the state of Florida, the land of the free. And wonderful to be in front of the news media. And thank you very much for being here. I'm just going to repeat more or less the same thing and just give a few more details of what's happening today. Today is a glorious day. I've been saying it all day long. It's a day that our community has been waiting for 65 years. Proud to say that I represent District Number 27, which is where this press conference took place, and where the United States government announced that Raul Castro finally is going to face justice. He was indicted, him and the 4 pilots that were flying those MiGs that shut down, as my colleagues were saying, 2 airplanes that were pretty little, and they were only looking for people to rescue, to rescue them from the ocean, from the sharks, call the Coast Guard back in Miami and tell the Coast Guard where those rafts were at so they will not drown. I don't have to tell you that the Castro family is despicable. But thank God that Raul is 95 years old, and today he learned that he could be spending the rest of his life, which everything biology indicates could be short, in a federal prison. If not, look at Nicolas Maduro. One of the things that we have to be very clear when they have asked us, the colleagues from the media, what's the difference between now and then, is that we have President Trump in the White House. That is the big difference. And this is a message to the Castros. Look at Maduro. President Trump gave Maduro the opportunity to go with his wife, with his family, somewhere else, and with the millions that he stole from the Venezuelans. But Maduro thought that he was smarter than President Trump. So I'm talking to Raul, to the cousin, to the nephew, to the son, and to the grandson. Pay attention and look what happened to Maduro. It's time for you guys to go, because there is a new sheriff in town, and that sheriff is Donald Trump. And he is going to be able to do and be willing to do what no other president, 10 presidents, Democrats and Republicans, dare to do with Cuba, which is to make it a friendly country for the benefit not only of the Cubans, of the Americans. Because if you think about it, when President Trump said that his agenda was America first, this is indeed what's happening. Cuba is the mothership of evil in the Western Hemisphere. Cuba only exports terror. And when Trump said that the Western Hemisphere was important, because it's just like what Marco Rubio was saying, that the proximity of the Western Hemisphere is so close to the homeland that we need to protect it. So this is what's happening right now. Cuba, after the Castros, will be a friend to the United States on the economic front, on the security front, on the political front, on the immigration front. So that's why we thank you, Mr. Trump, for taking this action and for making the Cubans free again and to dear friends of the United States. Thanks to all of you for the opportunity of being here in front of you. And once again, I repeat, it's a glorious day for South Florida, for the Cuban Americans that we represent, and for the United States of America. Thank you.
All right, we can answer any questions anybody has. Go ahead.
Thank you for your question. I'm Natalia Cabrera with NPM 24. So I hear you saying that to Raul Castro that is the opportunity to go. Does that mean that you will support for him to go perhaps to a third country to take an exit in the exile, as so many Cubans have to take at some point? And if you don't mind answer this question in Spanish for our audience and also for him to watch his message.
Who are you asking?
Yep.
Yeah, do you want Spanish?
If it's possible.
Why don't we just finish in English, and
Yeah,
then we'll
do
move into Spanish.
Well,
if that's okay.
first off, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Like, I want Raul Castro to go. Would you like him to be in prison? Sure. Would you like him to serve time? Sir. Would you like? But if he gets out and we get democracy and the people of Cuba have an opportunity, that's a good day.
Yes.
I'm interested in methods. Do you think this fast tracks regime change in Cuba? And if you support that, how would you do it? Would you do it through economic pressure, military means? How should this
Well, Castro controls all the money, right? They control all the money. So hopefully now the money's drying up because of what Trump has done. But if you look at the people of Cuba, they're willing to fight for their freedom. They've been doing it. Unfortunately, the Diaz-Canal has been putting these peaceful protesters like Alexander in prison. And so hopefully now they're seeing that America will stand up for them, that they'll do it on their own. But if it takes something, we should not take anything off the table. I mean, the same thing happened to Maduro should happen to Raul Castro. But I'm not going to get ahead of whatever the Trump administration wants to do. Yes.
What does justice look like in your eyes?
I wouldn't stand trial. Well, the right thing is you have to stand trial. In this country, you stand trial. So he needs to stand trial. And, based on the evidence we know, he would be in prison the rest of his life. And everybody around him that was part of that, they would be in prison also.
The foreign minister of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez, says he will continue fighting despite U.S. action. What do you have to say about this?
Ha, ha,
Keep
ha.
going. That's not going to go
Ha,
well.
ha.
Let me say this, okay? The foreign minister of Cuba is not part of the ruling establishment of Cuba. The ruling establishment of Cuba is actually a somewhat free enterprise system called Gaesa. Gaesa is really headed by Raul Castro. They control 70% of Cuba's economy. As a matter of fact, the budget of Gaesa is actually larger than the budget of the Cuban government. And so really, Diaz-Canal and all that apparatus, they're just figureheads. Gaesa are the real people that are controlling Cuba today. So a foreign minister can say whatever, the president can say whatever, it doesn't matter. It only matters really what Raul Castro and Gaesa are saying. And a little education what Gaesa is, all right? Gaesa is an organization made up of military personnel that control all economic activity on the island.
Hotel,
Right? Everything. They control everything. They have billions of dollars at their disposal. Today, 15 billion, I'm hearing. $16 billion today that they have, and yet they don't buy oil, they don't buy food, they don't buy medicine. What they do is they build hotels and whatever it is that they think that they can put money in their pockets. They are thieves, disguised as revolutionaries. They don't even believe in communism.
They live in opulence.
They do, okay? And so everybody suffers, And they, you know, them and their children and relatives go off in a jet-set world, date Hollywood stars, all right, while the people of Cuba are suffering. So it doesn't really matter what the foreign minister says. He's got nothing to say, or his words mean nothing because he doesn't really govern Cuba. I want to listen to what Gaeza people have to say.
Let's put this into context. Cuba, Gaeza has $16 billion in reserves. And Gaeza, as the congressman said, is an institution within the government. They control everything and is being controlled by Raul because the military control everything. The difference between the Castros and the Ayatollahs is that the Castros do not have resources. Russia is not helping them anymore. Venezuela is gone. And Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, President Trump, sent a very clear message that she could not be helping these thieves any longer, which we very much appreciate the fact that she stopped. So when you do not have oil or food or electricity or water or medicine, how are you going to repress? It's a very big question. Like Carlos was saying, they have $16 billion in reserves. Let's find out. And I'm sure the Department of War will figure out what are they going to do that money with. If they are going to indeed attack or they are going to create a military problem for the United States, we know exactly how we're going to be responding, but that is up to the secretary. What's important is that I do believe that Raul, and there's only Raul, his two daughters, his son, and his grandson, and his nephew. We're talking about 6 Castro family members. If they decide to go, I agree with the senator that I would love for them to die in jail. But if it's the best thing for this country, for the United States, and for the Cuban people, but first for the United States, for them to just go, I'm sure that my constituents, the largest Cuban exile community in the country, will be okay with that. Not happy, but we'll be okay.
Brian, Byron, you want to?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Given the proximity to Cuba and also the large amount of Cuban Americans in Florida and South Florida, what opportunities do you envision for potential relations with a reformed Cuba? What comes to mind?
Right. Well, I mean, first and foremost, the regime has to end. And so I agree with what my colleagues have said about Raul and the family. Of course, we want him in jail, but if they leave, they leave. The second key thing is going to be working with whatever semblance of government then exists in a free Cuba to reestablish the Constitution that works for the people of Cuba, actually have a system of security, a system where, you know, you can set up a judicial court system to operate. You have to also figure out how you're going to manage direct foreign investment that would go to an open and free Cuba, how you're going to guarantee contracts in that type of a system. Florida stands ready to cooperate with a free Cuba. We stand ready to do that work. Our port systems, both our seaports and our airports, are fully equipped and ready with investment moving through the United States of America, coming from Florida, to help the Cuban people stabilize that country and then to reopen it as a free society. But I want to stress, Florida will fully cooperate with a free Cuba. Florida will not cooperate with some amalgam of a new dictatorship if the Castros are gone.
If you just look at Miami for a second, there's unbelievable numbers of successful Cuban businessmen and women, and so people will go back and invest, but they're not going to invest unless there's freedom. There's exactly what the congressman said, that there's a rule of law. You have your contracts are going to be enforced. The people have freedom, but if you do, it's a beautiful. Anybody that's been there, I was there. I wasn't there in the Navy in Guantanamo Bay. It's a beautiful island. They got great beaches, and it's a wonderful place to go. And actually, if you look at the Cuban people, it's an industrious people. They want to work hard. They're smart. So there's a massive opportunity for people to invest in Cuba if they have freedom and democracy.
I agree with that.
Let me say one. In 1959, Cuba had the second highest standard of living in the Western Hemisphere. Cuba was the jewel of the Caribbean. Cubans around the world are highly successful. We're successful in business. We're successful in entertainment, in the arts, music, wherever Cubans go. And I know that I'm Cuban. I'm saying, hey, wow, we're really good people. But really, when you look at it, pretty successful people around the world. There's one place that they're not successful. That's Cuba. And so if Cuba was free and we had democracy, It's a great opportunity for the state of Florida. Okay, most Cuban Americans are there. Most of us want to go back to help in the rebuilding. The rebuilding, it needs unbelievable amount of work. A lot of that's going to come from the United States. So there's tremendous business opportunities. So for the state of Florida, it's actually a boom. For the Cuban people, a boom too, because you have almost a clean canvas to rebuild Cuba to what, bring it into a 21st century, which will then be a partner of the United States and a great partner to the state of Florida. And so I have confidence that if we get freedom, we have democracy, and the relations with the United States with freedom and democracy are going to be really outstanding, that Cuba will rebound fairly quickly and will be a great, great partner to the United States and to the state of Florida.
Let me just add a couple of more figures to what my colleague was saying. The Chinese, continental China, before it started being prosperous, had something called the overseas Chinese. Cuba has the overseas Cubans, where just in South Florida, the GDP and what we produce in South Florida is many times over what the Cuban regime produces. So right there, it gives you a perfect example with numbers of what a free Cuba, with overseas Cubans going in with capital and know-how, could do with that island. That island can turn into Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, only 90 miles away from Miami. And we know that because we live among the Cuban Americans who are eager and highly, with a high desire to go back and forth. So for Florida and for the United States, no doubt this will be an economic boom in the making.
Let's do two more questions. You have one over here.
Yes, sir. I want to get your reaction. Senators Kane, Schiff, and Gallego today are introducing a Cuban War Powers resolution that would basically hamper any U.S. hostilities against Cuba. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, first off, I'm disgusted by what the Democrats have done. They've gone down there to prop up the Cuban regime. That's the face of the Cuban regime. There's a guy, Hassan Piker, they campaign with, that went down there with him, that wants me murdered, wants all the capitalists in this country murdered. And Democrats are campaigning with him. So it's going to be a typical, I don't get the Democrats. Like, don't they want to live in freedom and democracy? Don't they want people in Cuba and Iran and places, don't they want them to have the same opportunities you and I have? But it's like they don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything.
No, it makes zero sense at all. The fact that you have Democrat senators who want to stop the United States government and stop President Trump from doing what he can to help free Cuba from more than 60 years of totalitarianism and a dictatorship. But then the same Democrats will come here and lecture everybody in America about how they're the only ones that stand for freedom, that stand for democracy. Give me a break. They're lying. But this isn't new. They lie about this stuff all the time because we work in these halls. And when we try to just do simple common sense policy to actually open up America's economy for the American people, drive down costs, have health care that makes sense, you know who stops us? The same Democrats who go on the trail and talk about how they're the only one standing for the little guy. That war powers resolution that they're bringing is indicative of the fact that the Democrats will tolerate totalitarianism on their watch. And they will let it happen. They will watch people starve. They will watch people be oppressed. And they won't lift a finger, but they'll go to their cocktail party and talk about how they stand for freedom and liberty and democracy. Give me a break. I don't listen to them anymore. And that resolution is why.
Okay, this is the last question. Oh, do you want to say something?
I do. I say there isn't one dictatorship that the Democrats don't support.
That's right.
Look around the world, okay? It's always America's fault. Why are we doing it? Why? It's amazing to me that they would go down, Democrats would go down and blame the United States for the woe that is Cuba, when it's the regime that has caused the suffering of the people of Cuba. And it's the ideology that has caused the suffering of not only the Cuban people, but people from around the world. But that ideology somehow fits their ideology. And so they'll excuse anything. Because it's tough to say, gee, I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong. Maybe communism and socialism doesn't work all that well. Maybe they do suppress the people, oppress the people. Maybe they are anti-democratic. And so when they come to these halls and they say, we're the defenders of democracy, yeah, really? You're the defenders of democracy, and you go around the world defending all those dictators and then blaming the United States? You know, it makes me sick to my stomach. Thank you.
Last one. Yep. Oh, we'll do this, then you'll do that. You guys can do Spanish.
You all support regime change. Would you support the president taking military action to execute that? And what form of military action would you?
Okay. First up, I don't believe you should. If I was the president, I would never take anything off the table. I don't think we should suggest we ever take anything off the table. I don't think it's going to take military action. And you know, this president doesn't like military action. He doesn't want to put troops in harm's way, but he does want to defend this country. So I think the people of Cuba are going to rise up. I think you would like answers in Spanish. Yeah, go ahead. You guys want to?
You go, Carlos.
Okay, la pregunta.
Señor, gracias por tomar la pregunta. Hablan de que enfrente a la justicia, sea como sea, que tiene que enfrentar a la justicia, pero que se vaya. ¿Estarían de acuerdo, apoyarían a que se vaya a un tercer país al exilio, así como tantos cubanos tuvieron que exiliarse?
No me gustaría. Yo creo que él merece la justicia, pero también, como dijo el senador Scott, que si es mejor para los Estados Unidos y también para el pueblo cubano que se vayan, para establecer la libertad y democracia, que se vayan. Me tengo que tragar, ¿sabes? Que no me gusta, pero algunas veces tienes que hacer lo que es responsable y lo mejor para el pueblo. Y lo mejor para el pueblo es que se vayan. Pero también lo que yo deseo, que se quede toda su vida en la cárcel, porque eso es la justicia. Pero en ese sentido, sí, lo voy a aceptar.
Yeah, dígame.
Como dicen también que no apoyarían una transición con un pseudo gobierno, con un pseudo régimen que venga también de ellos. ¿Cómo debería verse la transición hacia una Cuba libre?
Esa es una muy buena pregunta y nadie sabe verdaderamente la respuesta. Yo estoy de acuerdo con mi colega, que a nosotros nos gustaría que Raúl Castro se muriera en la cárcel. Hacía rato que había que meterlo en la cárcel, pero no había habido ninguna otra administración americana que quería ayudar al pueblo cubano a liberarse de estos sátrapas. Estoy de acuerdo con Carlos Jiménez, que si lo mejor para los Estados Unidos y para el pueblo cubano, los 11 millones de esclavos que viven ahora en la isla, es que estos señores se vayan. Quiero decir, es la familia entera, no son muchos, porque el resto no significa nada. Entonces nosotros estamos de acuerdo, y estoy segura que estoy hablando por la gente que vota, la gente del Distrito 27, de que no nos gustaría, sería espantoso, pero si es lo mejor para los Estados Unidos y para el pueblo cubano y para el futuro, para que el futuro y la libertad llegue más rápida, estuviéramos de acuerdo. Por eso le estoy diciéndole, mandándole el mensaje en español, que lo más inteligente para usted, que tiene 95 años, para su nieto, para su hijo y para su hija, que todos los Castros se vayan. Porque presten la atención a las palabras del presidente Trump. Y si usted no le está prestando atención a los 95 años, es un irresponsable en no pensar en su hijo y en su nieto. Porque si se quedan y llegan las fuerzas de democracia, entonces no vamos a tener la misma misericordia que estamos teniendo con usted. Por eso mire a Maduro. Maduro es el mejor ejemplo. Estamos hablando de un señor en la Casa Blanca que es su último término y que lo que quiere es llegar a la historia dejando al hemisferio occidental libre. Ya lo hizo en Venezuela, ahora lo va a hacer en Cuba y el próximo es Nicaragua. Va a dejar el hemisferio libre, lleno de amigos y de prosperidad.
¿Qué mensaje le manda esto a Gustavo Petro y los otros dictadores como el de Nicaragua?
Bueno, Gustavo Petro es un presidente que fue elegido por el pueblo colombiano, así que es algo diferente. Que no me gusta su ideología, ok, pero yo no soy como los demócratas. ¿Okay? Que yo no voy a atacar a Gustavo Petro diciendo que no es un dictador, etcétera, etcétera. Es el presidente de Colombia. ¿Okay? Vamos a ver, ahora vamos a tener nuevas elecciones en Colombia y vamos a ver lo que desean los colombianos, de una manera democrática. Y eso es lo que estamos en favor. No tienes que estar en acuerdo con los Estados Unidos, etcétera, etcétera, en todo, pero debe de ser una nación democrática, libre, que las personas se puedan expresar, que tengan la libertad de la religión, que la prensa también estuviera libre. Eso es lo que nosotros deseamos para este hemisferio y eso yo creo que también el presidente Trump desea, un hemisferio democrático y libre. No quiere decir que están de acuerdo con todo lo que hagan los Estados Unidos. Eso es lo que no estamos buscando, pero que sea democrático y libre y que sea libre de las dictaduras que ahora existen en este hemisferio. Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. Esas son las tres dictaduras para nosotros que de verdad no deben existir en nuestro hemisferio. Este hemisferio debe ser el hemisferio de la libertad, de la democracia. Y los Estados Unidos debe ser el líder de eso para asegurar que hay libertad y democracia en nuestro hemisferio.
Hoy es un gran día por independencia de la gente de Cuba. Gracias al presidente Trump, su posición contra Raúl Castro, Díaz-Canel. Raúl Canel, todos los miembros del régimen cubano necesitan justicia por sus acciones contra americanos. Raúl Castro, Díaz-Canel no son legítimos líderes de Cuba. Es un líderes de carteles, de drogas, de situación terrible. Pero ese es el caso del régimen cubano. Gracias.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to all of you. All right, thank you very much. That was really good. Very good. You know who's the very well.
I'll get you a copy of the letters. From